What is up guys, Stark here, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about the 7 million download campaign ticket that we all received in the last couple of days, and basically I'm going to go ahead and talk about which servants you should be looking at for your ticket exchange. Now I know a lot of people have been wondering why they haven't been able to use their ticket, and really, I mean, it's in the article here for the news. It says right here that it'll be available on September 15th at 2100 hours, so you know, it's coming out. As of recording this video, it'll be out in a few hours. So just hang tight guys, just be a little bit patient, and it will be available. It's not like anything's wrong. I don't know why they gave us a ticket 3 days early without it being able to be used, but it will be coming out tonight as of recording this video again, and I guess they just gave us time to think about who we wanted. So there's 42, I believe, 42 servants you can choose from, and I'm not going to go ahead and talk about all of them, because that would be like ridiculously long, but I will go ahead and talk about like 10 of the servants that I would recommend. Now they're not necessarily in any order or anything like that, they're just 10 servants that I'll just say, you know, if you pick those characters, they'd be a good choice for your team. Now first and foremost though, pick the character you want, like regardless of any strategy or anything like that. If there's a character you want on your team, pick that character. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. All characters in Fate Grand Order are useful and good in, you know, in their own way. So if you like a character, go right ahead and pick that character, and you know, don't feel bad about it. So you know, it really doesn't matter. If you want Nursery Rhyme, pick Nursery Rhyme. If you want Astolfo, pick Astolfo. It doesn't matter. Just pick who you want. Another thing to think about is, you know, what class do you need a character for? So if you have like 5 stars like Lancers and Berserkers and Riders, maybe look for a Saber or an Archer or something like that, just to fill a spot on your team that you might need. So those are kind of like some other criteria that really don't have anything to do with the servants itself, but those should be the first 2 things you look at. You should look at the characters you like and the characters you actually want to get on your team. So like, you know, Hercules here is going to be on the list. So he's obviously one of the best characters for 4 stars, one of the better berserkers. But if you don't like him, like, you're not going to want to pick him. So just because I'm telling you, hey, you know, this is a good character, doesn't mean you really have to go ahead and pick him. Like, just pick who you want. There are some honorable mentions that I do want to go ahead and point out though, and the main reason why I'm talking about some of these characters is because of the Halloween events that will be coming up very soon, and the news might actually be announced before this video gets uploaded. But essentially the Halloween events are coming back, so we're going to get last year's Halloween rerun, and in that event there are actually characters that get attack boosts. So if you're stuck on, you know, what character you want to pick, maybe you want to go ahead and pick one of those characters to get the attack bonus. If nothing else, you know, at least have some use for that. So that's going to be Ibaraki Doji, Nito Chris, and Vlad Extra. So I will be talking about 1 or 2 of those in this actual video when I get into it, but those are the characters that will have rate boosts, and you can actually, you know, you pick those characters with your ticket. Also, there's going to be characters that get attack boosts for the new event that we're going to get for Halloween, like this year's Halloween event. There's a few more there, so you're going to have the original Elizabeth, the Lancer version of Elizabeth. So she's going to be one of the characters you can pick. You can also pick Carmela, who's going to have her battle attacks and her Noble Phantasm animations updated. So, you know, if you do like her, you can get that just to get the updates as they come along. The Assassin of Shinjuku is one of them. Not really recommended to pick him, but again, if you do want that attack bonus, that could be an option. The Caster of the Nightless Sky, Tamamo Cat, and El Dorado are the other ones that will get boosted in the event. So that's just something to consider. I probably wouldn't recommend picking those characters strictly for the event, because they will also have the gotchas out with those characters rated up, presumably. But it is just a nice little thing to point out, just in case you guys wanted to get those characters. So anyway, let's go ahead and just jump into the list, and I'll just go ahead and start with him because I mentioned him earlier. So we're going to go ahead and talk about Hercules first. So Hercules is the 4-star powerhouse. You know, since the beginning of the game, he is a berserker and he can do a ton of damage. He's basically the 4-star character you ideally want to start with as a new player. He does a lot of damage, he has some really good survivability, he can do a lot of different things, and you know, the Berserker class is just very overpowered in the beginning of the game when characters aren't that strong and they don't do a lot of different effects. So if you are a new player, you know, definitely want to consider going for Hercules. But for newer players, maybe you don't really want to go for him. You probably already took him with one of the other 4-star tickets we've had in the game, or, you know, you just re-rolled and started with him with your free multi that you get at the beginning of the game. I think I did that. I can't even remember, it's been so long. But I made sure I had Hercules on my team before I started, because he's just really good. And even now, like even this far into the game, he still holds up really well, and he's still one of the better 4-star characters in the game. So he's definitely going to be a very good option. The only drawback is there's a lot of Berserkers in the game, and there are a lot of good 5-star Berserkers. So the odds are, you know, if you are a more advanced player, you probably have like maybe like Q-Alter or something to take the place of it. So it depends on what type of player you are. If you're a newer player, I'd probably lean more towards taking Hercules. But if you're, you know, an older player, you probably already have him, so he's not really going to be something you want to go for. Next up on the list, we're going to be talking about the Lancer version of Artoria Pendragon Alter. So she is one of the more powerful Lancers in the game, and especially as a 4-star servant, she can do a ton of damage. She's got a bunch of different skills to increase her own attack and, you know, do some extra damage. And her Noble Phantasm is one of the strongest 4-star AoE Noble Phantasms in the game. It just does a tremendous amount of damage, and it also has a chance to inflict Noble Phantasm Seal on those enemies. So if they do survive the amount of damage you get hit with, then odds are their Noble Phantasm will be sealed. So that's very powerful, and it does have an upgrade as well, so it can get even stronger. So really, she's basically just a massive damage dealer, but she does a really, really good amount of damage. And again, you know, if you're lacking a 5-star Lancer, then this could be a very good option for your team. Moving right along, we have the Saber version of Lancelot. Now, this guy is tremendous. He's a crit machine, and like he just does so much different things with crits. He has the ability to gain critical stars, he can increase his own critical damage, and he also can increase his own star absorption. So he has all 3 of the different types of crit effects built into his kit, and he can just dish out a ton of stars and do a ton of damage because of that. And really, the Saber class is honestly, outside of like Musashi and Okita, they really don't have any sort of like really big heavy hitters. So most people probably are going to go into their fights with 4-star Sabers because they don't really have any options. So picking Lancelot Saber is going to be a really good option. He can do a ton of damage. He's got a really unique Noble Phantasm as well, being able to increase your art's effectiveness and then do some pretty good damage to the enemy as well. And then he's also going to be able to increase the amount of damage that enemy takes, so you could follow it up with like your crits and just like completely pummel that enemy into the ground. So overall though, I really do think that Lancelot Saber is one of your better options. And honestly speaking, if I didn't have him, I feel like I'd probably lean towards taking him. But again, like my situation is probably not going to be the same as yours, and I do have a lot of the characters on this list already. So my decision is going to be really tough for me. I honestly have no idea who I want. I'm probably just going to pick one of the characters I don't have just to like complete the Pokedex of 4-star servants. But, you know, that's kind of just because I spend a lot of money on the game and I do a lot of pulls. But Lancelot is a very good servant. Next up, we're going to have one of the characters I mentioned in the honorable mentions, and that is going to be Nitocris. So she's going to be the first caster we talk about, and she's really good for like farming and wave clears and things like that. That's mainly because her Noble Phantasm has a really, really high chance of inflicting instant death on like fodder enemies. So you can just go ahead and use it. It doesn't matter like how much damage it does, because it's just going to kill the enemy. So it doesn't matter what level she's at or anything like that. You're just going to knock out the enemy, and then, you know, wave cleared. So it's really good. She's really good for farming. She does have guts as well, which be able to keep herself alive, and she can charge her own Noble Phantasm. So if you have the skill at level 10, you'll get an instant Noble Phantasm off. So this really factors in, again, with farming and wave clearing. You can just come in, no support needed, just pop her second skill, use your Noble Phantasm, move on to the next wave. And, you know, just having something like that, especially something that doesn't need any sort of support, is definitely worth considering. And farming and wave clearing is really important in this game, so she's going to be a very good option for that. Next up, we're going to talk about Emiya Alter. So let's go find him right here. Okay. So Emiya Alter is probably one of the coolest looking characters in the game. In my opinion, he's got really cool artwork, but he's also a really good character. He has the ability to spam Noble Phantasms pretty often, and he can also stun. Well, not stun, he can also decrease the charge of that enemy so they can't use their Noble Phantasm. So just being able to get an archer in, kind of like the Summer Saber or Summer Artoria Pendragon, where she can just spam her Noble Phantasm constantly. He kind of works in a very similar fashion, being able to just go in, use your Noble Phantasm, increase his own attack and, you know, his arts card effectiveness, and then just go ahead and just keep spamming that and keep doing damage and eventually taking care of the enemies. Next up is going to be another character that I previously talked about in the honorable mentions, and that is going to be Vlad the Third. And this is the like the extra version of him, not the Berserker version. Obviously, that's a 5-star. So he's going to be a 4-star Lancer who is pretty good. He's a versatile character, being able to act sort of like a tank with his taunt skill. He also has the ability to do some really good damage with his Noble Phantasm, and he can increase that with his second skill as well, being able to increase his party's Noble Phantasm damage for 1 turn. So if you do have a couple Noble Phantasms stacked and ready to go, you can just go ahead and use that and do some really good damage there. In addition to that, you know, he's a good servant. He also does get the bonuses from the Halloween event, so might not be a bad choice right there. But honestly, between the two, I would still go with Artoria Alter over him. But if you already have her, then maybe you might look into getting Vlad. Next up, we have Artoria Pendragon Alter, and this is going to be the Saber version. So the 4-star Saber, she's not really the best character in the world. She's kind of a sort of watered down version of the 5-star, except she's kind of not a watered down version of the 5-star. She kind of does. She probably can do more damage than her. But the main reason why she's on here is because she's a story servant, and story servants, you know, sometimes are harder to get than regular servants because you have to wait for them to come around or pull in the story banners. So being able to get her for free is something enticing. It might be something I decide to do because I don't have her and I'm not going to be pulling in the story banners ever. So unless she gets rated up on a banner that I actually want, odds are I'll probably never get this character. So I might just go ahead and get it because I do want to get all the alters, and she's one of the ones I'm missing, so, you know. But overall, she's not the worst character in the world. She can do some really, really good damage. She does have an AoE Noble Phantasm as well, so it's not like she's weak. She just really only focuses on dealing damage. She doesn't have anything else to offer. She does have a team attack buff, but outside of that, she really has no sort of support or anything like that. She's mainly there for her damage. Next up, we have Martha, the Rider version. Now, I'm not going to pretend like Martha is really good or anything like that, but the reason why I want to talk about her is because of her skill sets. So she has the ability to remove debuffs off of your allies, and really not that many characters have that ability. So if you're set on like your damage dealers and you need some sort of like support character, Martha is someone worth looking at just because of the ability to remove debuffs, and you can also reduce the defense of an enemy as well. It's not really something highly recommended, but having someone who can remove debuffs and reduce defense on the same kit is going to be very helpful for boss fights and like longer fights and enemies that have more HP or debuff your team heavily. Again, like I said, it's not one of the most recommended servants out there, but I do feel like I want to point it out and just give her a little bit of a shout out just because of the rarity of that skill. Next up, we're going to talk about Helena Blavatsky. So she's a 4-star caster, and she's going to focus mainly as a support character, but she can do some pretty decent damage. Mainly you want to take her if you don't have Waver or Merlin. So you'd be using her for her first skill, Mana Tuning, which will increase your party's Noble Phantasm gauge by 20%. So effectively this does what Merlin and Waver do, except you don't get any of the extra effects for like attack boost or defense boost or anything like that. But it's still really nice to have. Being able to get that extra 20% is going to make the world of difference, especially if you're using it in like a wave clearing team or a farming team, and you have a kaleidoscope with not a max limit broken kaleidoscope, just go in with 80%. You could use her first skill and get it filled right away. She does have an AoE Noble Phantasm as well, so she can benefit from that greatly. And she can also increase the arts card, buster card, and quick card effectiveness of your whole team. So she's not a bad option. If you do have Waver or Merlin, I wouldn't recommend getting her unless you actually like the character and you want to get her. But if you don't, then she's definitely someone worth looking into. And then finally, we're going to talk about caster Gilgamesh. Now, he is one of the better support casters in the game. He doesn't do that much damage, although he can do some good damage as well, just like Helena. He's mostly there for support, and he has a ton of different support buffs. He can increase the critical star generation rate, he can increase the party's attack, he can increase their arts card effectiveness and their debuff success rate. So all of his skills are party-wide buffs, and they do a lot of really good things. His Noble Phantasm also increases the defense of your team while doing some really good damage as an AoE Noble Phantasm. So Caster Gilgamesh has a ton of really good buffs, and he's just a really good choice if you are lacking in the caster department. So yeah guys, that is, I think I did 10 characters there with a few honorable mentions that I think are worth using your ticket on. Again, like I said, there's 42 characters here that you can pick from, and I obviously only talked about a fourth of those. So really, just at the end of the day, just pick whatever character you want, but I hope this at least gives you some sort of options to look at for, you know, what you're going for. I didn't really talk about them too much, but like Nero is good. Atalanta is going to get a nice little buff here coming up in the future, so she'll be really good as well. Like, all these characters have their ups and downs, and I really could just sit here and talk about all of them, but again, that would just be, by the time I finish recording the video, we'd probably be able to use the ticket already. But yeah, Gorgon's good, you know, just if you need an Avenger, there's always a good shout out right there. Frankenstein's good as well. So a lot of good choices, a lot of good characters. Just pick what you need or pick who you like. But I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I have the links below to my Twitter, Twitch, Patreon, and Discord. So feel free to check those out, and let me know in the comments which character you are personally going to go for. I haven't actually decided, I still have a few more hours to think about it, but I will make a video tomorrow with my choice, and I'll probably talk about the Halloween events and stuff like that whenever they get announced. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you guys next time.